Let's talk about how to use rebrandable content to increase traffic and profits. You probably know that there are many forms of rebrandable content, and whether you've purchased it or you've acquired it, a lot of people call rebrandable content private label rights or PLR. There are a number of names for the kinds of rebrandable content that are available. You may have heard resale rights and master resale rights and private label rights. All of those terms are different ways of describing what's called rebrandable rights or PLR products. In some cases, you may buy a PLR product, or maybe you purchased a product, an information product, and the individual that sold you that product gave you something and said, this has PLR rights, meaning you can use it either as content or you can use it as some kind of product that you want to resell. Now, in some cases, that person will give you unrestricted use rights. In other words, they tell you, I will give you this content, I will give you this set of videos, I will give you this set of audios, and you can do with this content whatever you want. That means you can turn it into a product, you can use it as content, you can resell it, you can resell the right to resell. It doesn't matter what you do with it. That's what happens in certain cases with private label rights. In other cases, just as I said, you may be given the right to resell to another person just as it is. In other cases, you may even be given the right to resell the right to sell the content. That might sound a little confusing, but there are some ways that we can kind of help you to understand that. But basically, when you get rebrandable content, you can resell and remake that content as your own. You're being given a license defined by the person that sold you the license. Now, regardless of that, regardless of the definitions, regardless of what it does, there's certain processes you have to understand in order to take this content and turn it into content that's going to work for you and turn it into content that's going to be resellable or a product that people are going to want to buy. Let's talk deeply. Now, there is text-based content that is private label rights content or rebrandable content. Some is text or image based. So you may buy something and you may get something in a PDF. It's basically something that is an audio or video. So anything that is an audio or video, we're going to find it as text based. So even if you get a set of PLR and it's made for you to be able to use as something that you might put on merchandise or a t-shirt or something where you're selling something that's physical, it's still text based. You might have the rights to reuse it, typically for profit. Or, as we said, you might be given the rights to resell, the rights to sell it. Now, typically when you get text-based content, you're going to be able to use it in a print-on-demand context or turn it into some kind of physical merchandise. We just talked about that. Or some case, a hardback book or a journal or a low-content book that's very popular now. You probably have heard of that. Or you may use it if you get something like articles or emails, you can use them in venues like a blog. So in other words, maybe you have written articles on a certain subject, you're going to use those articles on a blog, or you're going to use them in some kind of content where you're going to be selling some underlying products. This is a case where you get text-based content. Or you can use it as the basis for your information products. In other words, you may get text-based content and you're going to put it inside of an information product that you're selling to people. Maybe you do have a course on a certain subject and you don't know everything, or you don't have time to write everything that there is to write on the subject, even if you know it. You then purchase private label rights, the text version, and you put that text inside of your product. And what it does is it gives people solid research material on a subject that, again, you know, but you don't have time to write it all. So that's what text-based content will do for you. Written content can also be used in just about any way that you can think. If you have an online business, it doesn't have to be just a physical. If you have an online business, you can use this content in a blog. You can use this content as foundation for your podcast. You can use it in a information. There are lots of ways for you to use written content if you have an online business. Let's talk a little bit about audio and video content, because we just said that basically text-based content is what audio and video content is not. Now, You can also get audio or video content as private label rights content. You probably have some already. That content can be useful if you're doing some kind of instruction. So you're trying to demonstrate something, you're trying to teach people a process. Buying video content that somebody else has actually taught the process is a good way of you doing the teaching and you allowing somebody else to demonstrate it on screen and then giving people the knowledge that they need to actually do what you're talking about. If you don't have the expertise to teach people on a certain process, this is where having PLR available helps you to help that customer. All you're really doing then is you're establishing more trust with the customer, but you do that by giving them all of the information they need. For example, in some cases, a lot of information products today assume that a person knows how to set up a website and knows how to set up a website on WordPress. That's not always true. One of the things you could do is you could buy a private label rights course on WordPress that goes through the entire process. You say to your customer, even though this is not what we're talking about, setting up your site on WordPress, there is a portion of the course where you can go through all of the videos that will show you how to set up your website on WordPress. That's one of the ways in which you would use audio and video content. It does take some skill if you're going to use this in a way so that you remain credible. So in other words, typically if you get someone else's voice, you're going to have to go through some processes to make sure that you understand how to give it to your customer, but then you remain the person they want to buy from. So there are ways that you can make sure that you remain credible. But in addition to this, you also have to know some processes. You have to know of a strategy. And there's some processes you have to learn in order to understand this and undertake this. And I've just listed a few of these strategies here. Basically, some of this is how to use a sales page, how to use a sales video. That's important. If you're putting PLR on Etsy, you do need to know how to sell using video on Etsy. And maybe you're going to be taking a sales video and putting it on Etsy. You need to know how to use an affiliate network, especially if you're going to get sales from other people who are going to do the selling for you. So all of these processes are going to be important for you to understand how to make the most of your PLR. And when you understand these processes, what you're going to be able to do, you'll be able to take PLR regardless of what form it's in and be able to put it into your existing business and have it to give you more opportunities for profit. Why would I say you got to learn these processes? Why would you want to master these things? And why are they important for you to monetize PLR? Mainly because PLR depends on two different things, right? PLR depends on what you put into it. So in other words, what are you going to add that makes you the center of attention? What do you put into it? What do you put it into? So in other words, what system do you put it into so that it will make money for you? That's what PLR depends on. All of the other things, and depending on your experience with PLR, maybe you've heard it has to be rebranded, it's got to be changed, you've got to change the graphics, and all that's true. But what's most important is going to be what you put into it. In other words, what you do to make it unique, what you put it into. In other words, what kind of selling machine do you have? What kind of marketing system do you have? If you put it into these two things, you can monetize. And so that's why you've got to master the principles that we just talked about. They assume that you know of a market for the product. They assume that you know how to get it in front of the audience. They assume that you know what you're going to add to make it unique. What you may lack, though, is a process from taking it from what it is to help you to create the content that will actually generate more leads for you. And then to help you to create products that will help you to generate more sales. So, I mean, if you know these things, you know the things that we've spelled out, what's that going to do for you? That might be the question. How's it going to help you? If you understand PLR as a shortcut, you will understand how to create products faster. Once you understand these processes, the other thing you're going to know is how to create opt-in bribes. And so that's very important because that will help you to find the people who are going to be interested in the way you say it, who want to learn from you and want to join you as part of your email marketing list. And it's also going to help you as a shortcut for getting traffic for existing customers. You're also going to be able to take any PLR content, old or new, and turn it into something that people can purchase. That's what you really want to do. And there's a technical process that once you understand it, you can do it with anything. And that's really why you want to understand the processes that we just talked about. The other thing that if you've been around online marketing any length of time, you might have private label rights content that you have purchased. Once you understand these processes, you're going to understand that there is no such thing as outdated PLR. There are always things you can do with anything that you've purchased in the past that you have the rights to reuse and resell. But you've got to understand the processes though. What most people don't understand is, well, what do I need to do to put it into motion so that they can be monetized? Once you understand that, then you can use anything. Anything that you've been given the rights to, once you understand how to turn it and make it monetizable, you can go and use outdated PLR or anything else you've got to use, and then how to use Etsy. Right? That's becoming more and more important these days. And it's a way, in some cases, to reach audiences that you may not know how to reach. And so that's why these things are important to know. And we do have a step-by-step video course that will show you how to do those things. And it'll be on all the bases of how to leverage PLR content. It's about 57 minutes long. And we're going to cover just about everything. Now, video 1 is going to cover how to use a sales page. Video 4, for example, is going to be how to host your sales video. Video 10, how to deliver your product to your customer in Etsy. It's everything you need to work through the technical processes of monetizing PLR. If you want more information about getting that course, check out the link you see on your screen.